what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what Gareth Edwards does after working with such tight constraints the first time around and having more or less 100% creative control, one would imagine, to going into the studio system and making an epically massive film with a lot riding on it because no one's, Hollywood haven't made a successful... critically successful Godzilla film, I guess, to give this, age-old sort of character to him, more or less untested filmmaker. It's a pretty big deal.
It is amazing, actually, that a guy can make a film off his own back, almost, sort of. And he was filming in locations that he then had to CGI in signs in restaurants to make it seem like it was quarantined.
Done in his own house,
and pretty guerrilla as well. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so pretty DIY to a degree.
It was guerrilla filmmaking, really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And filming without permission and so on. And it's just amazing that a huge studio went to him with a huge property. Actually, I think the story might have gone, they were asking Gareth Edwards, Monsters was amazing, what would you like to do? And this is going back a few years, 3 years ago now, but I'm pretty sure they said, what would you like to do? And he said, I've got an idea for Godzilla. And I think that might have, do you reckon, does that ring a bell?
Well, he and the producer, Thomas Tull, are both massive Godzilla fans.
Right, okay.
Nice.
So I think they worked together closely on the script as well
Okay.
Not that they wrote the script, but I think they worked on the story together to make sure it was faithful to Godzilla.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sure.
So, synopsis for this one, I mean, it's pretty much similar to a lot of Godzilla films. You've got the human element there. You've got Bryan Cranston, who used to work at this reactor center somewhere in Japan, research center. Guys,
I think it was a nuclear reactor.
A nuclear reactor, okay. Yeah. And there was some sort of disaster 15 years prior, and the place got shut down, and he's sort of gone a little bit crazy in the interim trying to figure out what this potential cover-up was. Which leads to him discovering the existence of monsters. Now, here's the thing. We're going to have to talk about the other monsters in the film because in the trailers, it's revealed there's not just Godzilla, there's also something else. So we are going to talk about what the other thing is, but that's about as far as I'm going to go for spoilers until we get to the end of the episode. We might touch on some other stuff there. So here's a clip. This is David Strathairn's Navy Admiral talking about the monsters.
Muto. Massive, unidentified terrestrial organism. It is, however, no longer terrestrial. It is airborne. Now, the world still thinks this was an earthquake, and it would be preferable that that remain so. Before we lost sight of it, it was headed east across the Pacific and had emitted enough EMP disruption to create havoc with our radar and satellite feeds and reduce us, for the moment, to a strictly visual pursuit. I emphasize for the moment, because we will get on our game and we will find this thing. It is imperative that we do so.
Very serious stuff there. So when you're making a Godzilla film, there's certain parameters you have to work in. And I feel that these filmmakers really just excelled in every single aspect here. I mean, I love this film. I couldn't get enough of the actual creature design, and when they did hold it back for quite a while before they actually released the monsters, and especially Godzilla himself didn't make an appearance until quite late in the film, but when he finally came along, just looked phenomenal. So you've got a lot of stuff with the human drama going on, and it's funny with these sort of films because you've got an action spectacle, buildings collapsing, this sort of thing, and you've got a lot of people... you're supposed to care about these characters somehow. And in these early scenes of this film, somehow the screenwriter made it... You just had a little snippet of conversation with a couple of characters here and there, and you sort of got the entire character relationship and how they related to each other. And I thought it was done really, really well, and they just didn't dwell on it. And it wasn't these scenes after scenes of reinforcing the same stuff over and over again. It was really, really sparse, and I thought that worked really, really well. So I was on board with all these characters right away, even though at the end of the day it's not about them at all. It's about the monsters, and it's about what happens when monsters rise up and start fighting each other and destroying cities, because that's what you paid the ticket price to see. You want to see this come to life. It's old school event spectacle filmmaking, and it's just one of the best examples of it I've seen for such a long time. The other thing that made it so much better than the usual standard fare of this is the fact that You've got grounded in realism, I guess. We're sort of a bit over seeing cities be destroyed, I think, is my main issue with these sort of films. And I'm not saying,
Steel.
Yeah, okay, but I'm talking about every Marvel film as well. I mean,
No, that's true. Yeah,
I think Man of Steel took it to another level. Though.
Sure. But there's a sense of fun with superhero films, and it's not really about the destruction, and it's not really about the people that might be getting hurt, because every superhero films involves this sort of scale of destruction. But what happened in this Godzilla film is when you saw the aftermath of these huge battles and these and buildings being having chunks taken out of them, and you just saw devastation, it kind of just resembled newsreel footage of tsunami disasters and these sort of things. And like, you were constantly brought back to this feeling of it being, this is what it would actually look like if this happened in real life. And this sort of ethos all through the film of just keeping it as grounded as possible, but never ever betraying the fact that it's about giant freaking lizards. It was just such a good marriage of these two sort of aspects of the filmmaking. And for me, it just worked the whole way through. I just had a grin on my face for most of this film. It really, it did so much for me. I can't wait to hear what you guys thought about it.
Jesse, do you want to go next?
Well, I thought the film started amazingly well with its opening title sequence.
Oh my god, yes.
I don't know if you guys caught
That was incredible.
The things that were
Extensive
written
notes on that.
that were being pasted away. I missed most of those,
Yeah.
but I thought that was an interesting. And I thought, it just started with this epic tone, and the whole rest of the film spent the whole time trying to catch up to that tone. I've got 3 key words that sum
Okay.
the whole film up for me, and they're exposition, coincidence, and convenience. I truly hated this film.
Wow. All right.
I spent a lot of the... If I wasn't coming here tonight to review this with you, it would have been one of my very few walkouts.
No, you're kidding.
I thought, I'll agree with you, Tom. Visually, it was amazing. The creature design was ridiculous. I got a bit of a surprise. I don't know, must have been well, they'd revealed Godzilla quite well, but they had quite a close-up of his face. I didn't realise they cast Nicole Kidman.
Oh, that's our Nicole you're talking about.
Your Nicole. I thought the acting was really high class. Was that the word I'm looking for? It was top-notch class acting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Other than Kick-Ass.
I'm detecting a note. Yeah, no, I want to get to Aaron Taylor Johnson a bit later as well.
He was awful, and especially, I'm not sure I can say this. No, I won't. But he just looked like he looked like my thumb. His head and his neck are the same width, and I could not get past that for a lot of it. I know
he
that's
has
nitpicky.
drastically increased in size over the last couple of
that's
years.
crazy.
Since Kick-Ass, that's for sure. Because in Kick-Ass, he was meant to be a scrawny dude that was
That's
now
right,
a superhero. Now he is the guy that could be cast as Captain America.
He
That's right, yeah.
definitely had facial expressions back at Kick-Ass, though.
Oh, he did, yeah.
He had nothing in this. I felt the overall writing was awful. There was no emotional investment in any of the characters. Anything that was there for me was forced. It was void of real emotion for me. I mean, it just had, other than visuals, effects, and cinematography, it just had nothing going for me. I thought the sound design should have blown me away. I wanted to come out of that film with blood coming out of my fucking ears, and it was such a letdown on that level even. So all I can say was, cinematography and effects just don't do it for me anymore. I mean, we spoke about it before. We're being bombarded with event films and epic effects films. That's not enough, and I think they tried to have character development, but to me, it was just forced. And I don't know. I'll come back to some other things, I guess, once we hear what you say, Dave.
Well, that's about the. You do need more than effects to get you past a film like this, because the original Godzilla, when people were actually wowed by things like this, was a hell of a long time ago. So,
But they were wowed by the effects at that time, though. Like, that was the reason people went to the cinema.
No, that's
filmmaking
what
these
I'm
days,
talking
though.
about. Yeah, that's what.
No, honestly, I don't think we have. I think there's still a very sort of primal need to see stuff on the screen that we'll never see in real life.
Well, I think. Oh no, I totally agree. I just mean that you need to ramp up.
Okay, so we're more sophisticated audiences now. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
that's all I'm saying.
But for me, the things that you have problems with, Jesse, like the characterization and things like that, it's more or less window dressing for me. I don't really care. Actually, I guess we'll talk more about that because Pacific Rim is an interesting comparison because that was what tore that film down.
That's
for
a
me.
perfect comparison. Is Pacific Rim. Yeah.
Well, I find comparisons with Iron Man 3, as I said earlier. There was only a small section. I don't want to give anything away, but there was a surrogate father type aspect to a part of the story, and that's part of the forced dramatization for me. There's no real connect for me because I don't care because
you can see them plotting the mechanics behind the screen.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I want to hear what Dave has to say about the film first, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty after that.
I just loved it.
Okay.
I just absolutely loved it. I'm really
and you guys
glad.
usually disagree, yeah?
I don't know. I think it goes about 50-50. I'm really glad we have you on though, Jesse, because otherwise this probably would just be an hour-long love fest for Godzilla. I just from the moment the credits started, and that is a hell of a way to start it up.
Oh, it was an amazing opening sequence.
Yeah. The score is incredible, and just that design, mixing the actual archival footage with stuff they've obviously shot just for this film, and it was pretty seamless.
It created an entire world within a credit sequence.
You're completely up to date. It was like
Watchmen for me. It was
thank you.
It was equal to the Watchmen.
Exactly. It just filled you in on so much, and then you were ready to delve into the story.
But it created such an excitement too. I mean, you don't have, again. There's such teasers with Godzilla in this film that they get in the opening sequence. You know what's coming, but then you have all the army men putting on goggles and they're about to fire something at something in the ocean, and then you just see these scales rise,
spikes,
and then it just the spikes, and then the camera just freezes, and then the title sequence comes in, and the movie starts, and that was exactly what I wanted, because this is a film that I've been looking forward to. I can't think of another movie I've been looking forward to for so long, since maybe The Dark Knight Rises. Basically,
it's one of the most anticipated films of the year, not just for us, but for a lot of people.
I sort of personally picked this film to come aboard and work with you guys for this episode. I've been keen for this film for a long time, since hearing Gareth Edwards had anything to do with it. And so it was a massive letdown for me.
That's a shame, because I don't see those things. I mean, I guess I can understand that some of the characters maybe might not work completely, but kind of like what I think you were saying, Tom, is that that's not exactly what we're there for. But what I liked about it so much is that it did feel like they went to special efforts to make the sequence, or at least the logic of the plot, flow somewhat more than you would normally get. I think
I think they put a lot of effort into that, actually. And
I was just waiting for Jeff Goldblum to pop up and suggest that they should give them a cold, because somebody mentioned it to him earlier, and it was so CSI to me, the structure of the writing, from leading from one plot point to the next.
It's not all gold, but like most of Ken Watanabe's lines are the fact, like he comes in with the solution and the
out of nowhere,
exactly, because he's talking about things that have never happened, but he somehow knows exactly what's going to happen. So I realize that he is simply a plot device that's been made into a character, and that's an issue. But every time that one of his stupid lines came along, I just sort of thought to myself, yeah, it's Godzilla. Like, I'm watching a Godzilla film.
But can I mention The Watch as well? Was that not one of the weakest?
That wasn't a high point.
There was a
There are definitely
the flawed dramatization to me.
I could have done without that, but I also like the fact that they were trying to honour exactly where Godzilla came from.
And I can understand all that, and I can understand you saying it is a Godzilla film, and I don't know what I expected. Maybe I think I expected a lot more because of my love of monsters and the characterization and the connection that you felt with the characters in that film.
Yep.
I expected a Godzilla film with that, and to me it didn't deliver.
I guess I expected a Godzilla film without that, and I was really happy to see it was there and present. I mean, except for Aaron Taylor-Johnson, which we'll get to in a moment, but I think everyone else was really solid. I mean, Juliette Binoche, I didn't even know she was in this film.
I didn't know she was in it until the opening title.
Until the credits rolled up, exactly. And then you saw her name, and oh, really? And then, she's... And I just felt like as soon as you saw her on screen, you just thought, yes, I can see why a person like that would marry someone like Bryan Cranston. I just sort of saw their entire relationship as being something that was believable. Because he wasn't married to some hot young scientist woman, which is often the case with these sort of films, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons why I think I liked the whole non-monster part about this movie so much, is because generally when you have these disaster movies, because we're so used to having to connect with characters, you're always given 4 or 5 people that you're generally with the whole time through an action film, and normally it doesn't make sense. Like, Transcendence we just watched recently, and that was for some reason you have an event that's about to take over the world, and all we're left with the entire film was 4 people dealing with it, like there's no one else on Earth.
Yep.
This it felt like they gave proper cause for the characters to be there, like Bryan Cranston turning into a conspiracist, and I might be slightly biased because I'm obsessed with conspiracy theories, but I loved the way that his character tied into it and then bled over into his son. I think that flowed really well, and then left a connection properly, so it meant that we weren't just watching a small team of people dealing with a huge sequence.
It feels quite connected and quite global, which is hard to do in these sort of films.
It's very hard because there's no real reason why only 2 or 3 people should be involved in this.
See, I totally disagree. I felt that the 4 or 5 characters that they did use, it was just that. They were just 5 characters just telling the story for us, which obviously these are age-old techniques to tell stories. But it comes back to those 3 words for me: exposition, convenience, and coincidence. Everything just fell into place, and everyone was in the right place at the right time.
But usually I feel that's completely broadcast all the time with these sort of films, and I just wasn't really that fussed by it this time around. I guess that's sort of a cop-out thing to say, but I mean, I was just focused on the spectacle, and everything else was just there doing its thing for me, and it just sort of complemented each other so well, with the exception of Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I mean, it's a bit weak having him as a super awesome soldier that everyone salutes and stuff, and he gets to go everywhere, and it's all a bit funny. Now,
that's the convenience right there.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but for whatever reason, that didn't really bother me at all.
See, for me personally, there was no difference between this and the 1998 Puff Daddy version.
Okay.
To me, this was a Roland Emmerich film just painted with a nice brush.
It was,
but
it was gorgeous.
You cannot polish a turd, though, I think.
Wow, all right.
And that's what they've tried to do here.
How about the connection then with the Bryan Cranston character as the guy who was involved initially in the nuclear fallout in Japan, and then 15 years later he's been researching, he's sure that the tremors he felt were caused by a monster, but he can't prove it. He's turned into this nut, and then it rolls over into his son, who's then inextricably linked with the whole thing. That didn't work.
It just felt forced for me. I mean, I get what you're saying, but why did he think they were monsters? I know that there was reasons to think it might have been something else, but why?
I think that was more.
He was explaining
more
in the readings it was increasing, and
he was the only person with that data. I think that sort of stuff was pretty well explained. I also like the fact that they went so deep into the setup with Ken Watanabe's character going to the Philippines 15 years earlier, and it took a while for all those pieces to fall into place. But I really appreciate the effort the screenwriters went to sort of build the world.
Sorry, there was a script, was there?
Yes, there was.
I reckon that's harsh. There's maybe not in the dialogue. I think even they managed to get out the exposition in a way that was a lot more tolerable than you would expect. They've got a lot of ground to cover, and I thought that it was covered pretty decently.
Yeah, I was fine with that.
I just disagree. I think Nolan covers and handles exposition extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys failed miserably. I think a lot of it was a lot of the story progressed by saying, where is this going? And then it shifted to there. Why are we doing this? Because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's a rule that filmmakers should apply. It's show, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys just told everything.
I do have a lot of problems with this movie, but none of them dragged it down for me. There is something to be said, though, that we've almost completely lost this whole nuclear metaphor. That's pretty much gone out the window with this movie. But
other than Ken Watanabe's little,
his little spiel.
Don't forget to watch
for 20 seconds. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a throwaway line that they must have. It's not a highlight for sure, but the way that they it felt like they had to every single time the army had to work out a way to fight the monsters, and they were told, well.
That was the Navy,
nature.
Dave. Credit where credit's due.
Oh, Navy, Army. Okay. So there's a different colour. It never felt like the Navy had a proper approach or a proper plan of action, and that they just sort of. I probably can't go into it too far. We'll go into this in spoilers,
I've got a
I
few
guess.
things I want to say in the spoilers section.
Yeah, because there are real specifics that did bug me about it, but it didn't ruin the experience for me. It's just that it did feel like there should have been a little bit more intelligence or thought behind the Navy's actions in this, and we didn't really get that. We got a lot of emotion action and a lot of spectacle, and I mean that was good. That's fine. It worked for me, but I would have liked some more intelligent analysis of what was actually going on. Yeah, it didn't bother for me. The effects though, and actually seeing Godzilla, and they must have teased Godzilla. Maybe God, he came on screen 5 or 6 times with a tease shot, and I will say that was probably going a little bit overboard with the teasers.
Technique. See, I think that's where they succeeded, using the Jaws technique and teasing and teasing.
Don't you think though? I mean, once, twice, 3 times, that's okay. We get to 4 or 5 times, we see the same shots of him being revealed, and then
I was okay with that.
Oh look, I think it looks amazing. Yeah. I just thought that maybe 90 minutes in, when they're still doing a reveal, do we have to have a reveal every time we see him? I guess actually maybe we do. It is, because it is pretty damn spectacular when he comes on, and
to me they've got nothing else going for them other than the reveal.
Well, if you're making a monster movie,
that's the key.
The monster is your currency, so you can't spend it all at once, you know.
Yeah, but it is like, you know, there's something behind a curtain, right? And you reveal the curtain, then you push it back, and then you reveal it, push it back. But how many times can you do that?
I was okay.
I don't know. I know. I'm going to start nitpicking in things just because otherwise I'm just going to be talking about how much I loved seeing a huge monster fight other huge monsters, because I was blown away. I had a huge, like you said, I had a huge grin on my face the whole time.
So you thought the fight sequence, like the battle sequence,
I loved the fight sequence.
During the fight sequence, all I could think of was and we should have brought this up in the news before, the Power Rangers movie's just been announced.
That's right.
Really?
A new Power Rangers movie. Yeah. All I kept thinking was, I just can't fucking wait for that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this is not doing it for me.
But this, I mean, I felt the fights in this scene were exactly, it had the spirit of those old Japanese films, of guys in suits wrestling in a model city, except it was the most realistic thing.
It looked real, yeah. I'll give them that.
Seen.
I mean, as I've said, the effects and the cinematography were outstanding. And
it just had so much love for where it came from in cinema history, and I just that was all over the screen, and I just really, I respected that they had a lot of time for that. And
I think because I didn't care who won the battle.
Yep.
So,
but I did.
So it didn't do anything for me. Whereas if it was Megazord and
No, I had a stake in you know, I had a horse to back in that race, and I really wanted one side to win. And
and I think they planted those seeds pretty well.
But I think, I'm not saying the seeds weren't planted. But you guys are fans of Godzilla?
Not really.
No,
I mean, I said what I thought about the original. I mean, it's admirable. I don't love it.
Yeah,
but yeah,
because for me, I didn't care, and because I had no connection to any of the characters either. I mean, at some points I thought, just kill that kick-ass guy. I mean, he's annoying. He's bugging me.
All right, I'm going to come in now because I do not see this. I thought that Aaron Taylor Johnson was totally fine.
What?
Yeah, this is you guys are both just exchanged looks.
My jaws just hit the floor. Yeah,
I honestly thought that he was all right. I mean, I didn't even like Kick-Ass. I think that he's fine as an actor.
Yeah.
What was
okay? So for me, for the first half hour of the film, I thought he was fine. He was playing sort of a hard-jawed military guy. He had father issues. He also had a young family. And that
he's
sort
not
of stuff.
ticking off the cliche boxes as you say them, or
it's funny. The movie might have told it a little bit better.
No, this is exactly what the movie told. Like, he was fine. He was capable to do exactly what was demanded of him to a certain point, and then he started to have points later in the film where he needed to show emotion, and he just couldn't do it. Like, as an actor, he just couldn't do it. I don't know if he just forgot how to act or whatever, but there's a point later where his family's in San Francisco. His young baby boy or toddler boy and his wife. And he hasn't seen them for ages, and he needs to get to San Francisco. Now, there's a train that's going to go to San Francisco. All he needs to do is get on the train. All he needs to do, guys, is convince one person that he needs to get in the train. And he says to the guy after this long conversation, my family's in the city. But he says it in a way that's like, I don't really care if you say yes or no. He just goes, you know, I need to get there.
And you don't think it was coincidence that he was there and the train was there and it was going back to where he needed to go?
Yeah.
The whole film was that for me.
No, I wouldn't say that at all. But I'm just saying that you need to push these moments through. You need to sort of. You need to work for it a little bit. Elizabeth Olsen, who plays his wife, is the polar opposite. I mean, she is in a B-grade film. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying the whole concept
Well, it's a monster
of this
movie.
it's a B-grade movie.
It's a $150 million B-grade
She
film.
is playing a pretty thankless role, and she just sells every single moment. I mean, I love this woman. I think she's incredible. But
She's incredible, and she has the most thankless role
Yeah.
we've seen for a female on screen in years.
But I think
it's so cliched and
just
so
puts
terrible.
everything of
it's just
herself
lucky that we
into
got
it.
a great actress doing
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying. But and we needed someone of her caliber in the Aaron Johnson role to actually sell those moments, which don't actually mean much in the scheme of things, but you need to sort of put some effort into it to move it along. There's a point later on where someone calls his name like Lieutenant Brody, and he just says yes, but he says yes in a way that's like, why are you even talking to me? Like, he's just a spoiled child. Like, he doesn't want to be there. He's like, oh, God, what? I'm the only EOD expert in the entire world left because everyone else is dead, but hey, what do you want? He's terrible. Like, he really annoyed me through most of the film.
Is part of that writing then as well?
No, I think it's him.
You don't think that I'm the only EOD expert left in...
Yeah, okay. But I
how
think,
do you act that well?
But
Is
what
that
I'm
you
saying
mean?
is Elizabeth Olsen's character was just as two-dimensional, but if you commit to it and you take these words as if they are real life happening in front of you, a good actor can elevate this material.
Well, I think David Strathairn is an amazing actor, and I don't think he elevated anything. I think, and as I said earlier, all the acting is great, other than... I keep calling him Kick-Ass, but his name is...
Aaron Taylor
Johnson.
Yeah.
I think David Strathairn was wasted. That role could have been played by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I kind of liked he actually played a fairly pragmatic character for that role. Normally you get this gung-ho, let's just bomb them, whatever.
Your James Cameron sort of style.
Yeah, you're James Cameron kind of guy. This guy seemed to be willing to listen to his consultants, and he seemed a little... Yeah, he just seemed... He had more time.
Yeah.
A little bit more diplomatic.
See, maybe I got halfway through the
know-
film and hated it so much that I just threw all
I
this
know-
negativity at it.
Well,
Yeah, that happens.
I know what you mean about him being wasted. He's displayed like Good Night,
Good Night, Good Luck. He won an Oscar there, didn't he?
Yeah, actually, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so he can be an incredibly great actor when he needs to be. This didn't give him much to do, but I thought that his character was a step. I think what I thought about everything, like ignoring the action, if you look at it from an emotional level and a character level, I thought everyone was a step up from what you would expect from a disaster movie like this.
I didn't really put much stock in the military roles because they're just there to serve a purpose. The fact is...
But they were done better than what you would normally
I
get
wouldn't
to
even
serve
say
a
I don't
that.
think they were. I think
No,
they were
no?
only played by better actors.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
yeah.
had
Same
talent
level
there,
as-
but I mean, at
Actually,
the
I
end of
was
the day...
saying, I guess their thoughts and their actions didn't really...
I mean, you know
they
how
didn't really do anything.
You know how it is in Hollywood, where if a film needs military support, they will adjust the script so to make sure the military looks good.
Yes.
So the Navy looks pretty damn good in this, and he is a great guy. As you said, he's a good commander. He takes advice. You know, he listens to people. Obviously, that's because the Navy scripted it that way, so he looked that good. I mean, it's. But I'm not saying that drags the
Well, you
film
think
down.
I don't know if the Navy would have scripted it. I mean,
Of course they would.
Well, they don't script it.
They do.
They don't script it. They
do.
No, they approve.
They
though.
suggest things. They
I
say,
am
"What if
awa-
he said it this way?"
Oh, I'm aware they suggest things, but you can't just say that
They
the
don't
Navy
script things.
wrote
They
his
do.
line. They don't. No, but they don't write the lines for the characters.
In some cases, they do.
They
I think
have.
in Act of Valor or Valor.
No,
well,
no.
yeah, something like
I
that.
think they did there.
They
but
had the
that's-
right of refusal. But they're not writing characters.
No,
lines.
they are suggesting things to be said and
yeah.
different ways to put
I know
things.
they make
which
make
I would say
suggestions.
is kind of like scripting.
They can be the equivalent of producers in films like this, but
Yeah.
they're
They don't,
certainly
they
not.
don't hold the power of producers though, so they can be told no.
Well, yeah, but then they don't get the cooperation.
That's true,
So
yeah.
it's a tough position, but
They
I
do
don't,
hold the power of producers because of that reason, though.
Yes, but
if
they don't,
withdraw
but they're not,
all.
but they're not screenwriters and they're not writing the lines.
In some cases, though, they are. I'm just saying, like, the military does have this sway. If a filmmaker wants to use military equipment, tanks, planes, anything, I mean, they have to make sure that the military is okay with everything in the script. They get script approval. Maybe not an actual...
script approval. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And if they don't approve the script, they say, change it to this. Therefore, they are shaping the script.
Well, it would be like the MPAA. They'd be saying, we don't agree with that. You'll need to do something with that.
And
Yeah,
did Sony
but
and
they're not
Subaru
writing
have
the
the
lines,
same
is
input?
what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying that it comes down to actual lines, Dave. Like, this is a thing that happens in movies that have military assistance. The military has to approve the entire script. That means every single line. So if there's a line they don't like, they ask for it to be changed.
But that's different than actually writing
That is
the
different
script.
to writing it.
Okay, it's a point that's not really what we're talking about right now. I'm just saying the fact is the Navy guys look great in this film, and I just think that's fine. It's a factor of this film. It doesn't make it or break it for me. I'm more interested in the human story, and I'm more interested in the monsters, so I don't really care. But I'm just saying that he's just a function of he's there to make the Navy look good.
What would have been really nice in this movie would have been to have the Army or the Navy just go, we're fucked. We can't do anything, because there is a point in the movie where you start thinking, why every time a monster comes up, why are they just shooting at it with bullets? They already know this doesn't work. We're falling back into the movie tropes of it's bad, shoot it. They know not to shoot it. So yeah, it would have been nice. I guess what you're saying basically is that the Army can't look bad, Navy can't look bad. I can call it. Navy's the Army, yeah?
No, Navy's different.
They're different.
Yeah? Okay. All right. But yeah, so I just would have liked them to have thrown their hands up in the air and said, we can't do anything, because that's basically what happens in the movie.
That's right. They get to the point where they have an outcome, and that outcome
fails.
Well, it's not the right outcome, is it? I mean...
We'll have to get into that in spoilers, I guess.
And I sat through that period thinking, really?
So what did you guys think of the score overall?
The score, I really loved. It was I really liked the way it harkened back to old action monster movies with the horns and the...
Yeah, for want of a better word, I felt it was pretty operatic. I mean, it really sort of got the blood pumping for me. I mean, it complemented the kind of, inherently preposterous action on screen really well, because it's got to be big and bold and brassy. Otherwise, what else are you going to do? It's giant lizards fighting each other. So you need something to complement that. And I just thought, I'm not one to really ever notice score, but every now and then...
I think you're picking it. You've been bringing it up more and more.
I think so. I think I'm sort of being more aware of it these days, but this score I just thought was just really, really effective. I mean... Jesse, you might have been too far gone to...
Well, I was really aware of the score.
But not in a good way, I take it.
Well, for me, that's a fail automatically. If you during the film, if you're aware of it, it's not doing its job.
But what if you're enjoying it, though? Like, does that not...
Well, shouldn't there be moments, like during emotional moments, you shouldn't notice the score because those piano tinkles are just terrible, but during the action moments when the horns kick in, that should be...
But the whole piece should be one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it being segregated.
Right, like where it has such polar opposites. Like
and once again, maybe I'd got to the point, past the point of no return where I'd had enough of it and was just trying to pick it apart. And
I felt like that with Captain America too. I got to a point where it just felt like any other argument past the 40-minute mark, I was just down on because I was not enjoying the film.
So, Jesse, not to discredit your argument though, but I mean, what were you expecting about a movie about a giant radioactive lizard?
Well, that's a pretty good question, Tom, because I know that is... It might be deemed silly for me to going into something like this expecting something more, but I think Gareth Edwards' previous film, his debut, Monsters, is what made me think there'd be more. He managed to make a film about aliens taking over, well, basically the world almost. It made you care about the human characters. That film made me care about the aliens, I felt a connect with those. I'll take it even back to King Kong. I shed a tear when King Kong fell from... This is, the Peter Jackson remake.
Right.
When he fell from the Empire State. And to me, it doesn't matter that it's a monster film. Film to me should be emotive, evocative, engaging, no matter what it is. And you guys keep bringing that back up. It's just a monster film. It's not just a monster film. It's a film. That happens to be about monsters.
But I would say...
Which Gareth Edwards has done extremely well before, in my opinion. So that's what I was expecting, I guess, but on a recognised scale because it is the brand Godzilla.
Okay, when I'm being a bit flippant and excusing some of the more expositional dialogue and all that sort of stuff, it's because... I'm not saying there's not an emotional core there. I think all the human actors did a fantastic job except for old mate. But... I actually thought the emotional core was the character of Godzilla. I really felt for that character, and I really cared about what was going to happen to that character.
See, I can't say too much about that, I guess, until we get to the
we'll hold that for later.
Section,
but I mean, it's suffice to say, that character worked for me. I mean, I thought that there was a lot going on there, and I wanted certain things to happen, and I was invested, I guess. I wanted to see where it went.
So it was a good idea having Nicole Kidman play Godzilla.
It kind of worked out well.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, so there was a lot of talk when the first picture came out of the monster that this Godzilla had been Americanified. What's the word? Americanized? I was trying to say like fide, like
Kentucky
it
Fried.
had been. That's right.
American Fried.
Yeah, people were making jokes like it had gone to America and, gained weight, become
Oh,
obese.
see, I'm not calling Nicole Kidman fat.
No,
I'm
just
saying she's ugly and can't move her face.
just
you know,
hideous.
so-
Yeah,
I'm not being
well,
nasty here.
Yeah, we wouldn't want
Pointing
that.
out the fact.
not being fattest.
Yeah, no, I'm not being fattest.
Well, there was,
God forbid.
but a lot of people were saying that this monster, this version of Godzilla, looked too plump, like he'd been blown up and
See,
inflated.
I had
and
no
didn't-
problems with the way Godzilla looked.
No, neither did I. I
Godzilla
think-
looked spectacular, and I'll sell that for it. It did look spectacular. Everything about the film visually was spectacular, but that's all it had going for me.
Okay.
I think there's no real way to reference that original character design without changing it somewhat, because you can't do a carbon copy of it. And I think putting on a bit more bulk on the figure of the monster was, a fine choice, because you managed to preserve the overall shape of that original iconic Godzilla. I mean, if you look at the back to the '98 version, I mean, what the hell was that? That was it was a Tyrannosaurus, really.
It was a dinosaur, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd seen Jurassic Park
with
and-
some spikes on its back for some
Yeah.
reason, more like a megalodon or something. I mean, it was.
How do you fail a Godzilla design? I mean,
Well, you make it look like a T-Rex because Jurassic Park was so successful. I mean, that's what they went there.
Yeah, but
It would have
that's-
only been a year after Lost World.
I guess so, yeah. That's why it was so
that's
fresh
right,
in my mind. But I mean, I really appreciated the fact that they stayed classical with this, and they.
Oh yeah, he looked like Godzilla.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, that's what I thought. That's why I thought these accusations about him being fat and American.
I think
looks
it's-
real.
I don't know.
Like this American. I don't want to be. So I'm not trying to say that all Americans are fat. It was just there was this international joke that he'd gone to America and feasted on fast foods, and this was not Japan's version
Yeah.
of Godzilla, but America's fast food version. I
think
don't
this-
see that at all.
This is
I
a
didn't-
symptom of not having enough to talk about before the film comes out.
I
It's
th-
I
about
would think
latching
so,
on to
yeah.
whatever's out there, a teaser, poster, whatever, and then just writing doctorates on it. I mean, there's you can't really say this sort of stuff until the film comes out itself, and now we
That's
can
right.
actually have a discussion.
You know
about it.
how before The Dark Knight Rises came out, everyone was saying, "Oh, Catwoman looks like she looks like a non-costume. She doesn't really have any cat ears, or Christopher Nolan doesn't know what he's doing with this character." And then you watch the movie and you go, "It's an evolving cat burglar costume that eventually ends up looking more like a Catwoman would in that universe." It makes perfect sense. But there was this outrage when she was first on the bat pod.
Yeah,
Sure.
there was an
That
outrage
picture.
when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker.
Yeah,
That's right,
There was an
yeah,
outrage
yeah.
when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. You
Yeah.
got to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. So we mentioned it before. This Pacific Rim comparisons. Have you seen Pacific Rim?
I
Jesse?
didn't bother. No, I'm
Right,
a
okay.
massive. Who made it?
Guillermo
Del Toro. Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
I just had a moment of
He's
something, but I'm a massive fan. But I didn't bother. I saw the trailer and I thought I saw Ivan Ooze battle the Power Rangers already. I'll bring them up again. Clearly, I'm a Power Rangers fan. But I don't know. I would rather see a big budget Power Rangers film than a Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim, I think, is going to be looked back on as a real oddity. I mean, the fact that they gave Guillermo this much money to make this film. I mean, he's just got such a love for
What was
these
it
sort of
worth,
films.
Tom?
I can't remember, man, but it was kind of outrageous. It was
Over 200.
crazy. I think it was getting up
wouldn't
there.
be surprised if
180 or something like that. But the fact was, they failed on the human drama, and unfortunately, the human drama was pretty pushed to the fore on that film. I mean, that was what it was about. Whereas,
You don't think Godzilla was pushed to the
honestly,
fore?
I don't. I feel that.
I thought it was rammed down your throat and
No,
poorly as well.
I think it was there to supplement what was going on with the monsters. I thought the
it was
monsters were the
evenly
main
balanced.
event.
Can we talk about the last half hour of the film?
Yeah, but on the Pacific Rim note, the
sorry,
reason
yeah.
I wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
is because there was this when they got to the action, it was just spectacular, and I would recommend watching it if you like seeing huge monsters battle
No.
giant robots. Not really, just
Well, that was my inherent problem with Man of Steel.
okay.
Just the relentless destruction just got too much, and
Yeah, I felt that there was a lack of creativity in
Yeah.
that kind of a battle with Pacific Rim. I thought that it was really well put together, and it felt. I almost enjoyed the action scenes in that as much as the scenes in this Godzilla. Actually, no, maybe not quite as much. But the big comparison, I think, is that Pacific Rim showed how excellent action cannot overcome horrible characters, and that kind of dialogue and that stereotypical just nonsense being spouted.
Everyone is very poorly drawn in that film. It's a terrible shame because it could have been a really entertaining film.
And it's such a great idea. It had actually, if you think about it, even slightly more intelligence behind it than this Godzilla did. I rewatched Pacific Rim about 2 weeks ago and found myself paying complete and utter devotion to the screen when the battles were going on, and I would literally just tune out when the battles weren't happening. I'd walk around and do something else. I'd find something else to do because it was abhorrent, and the more attention you pay to the characters, the angrier you get.
Yeah. And some of these were great actors, Idris Elba.
Well, Idris Elba
Ron
sort of where
Perlman.
it stops.
No one could overcome. Idris Elba just could. They were given poor dialogue to deliver in this serious, dour tone. That was there's just this monotone.
So this is how I felt about Bryan Cranston and David Strathairn.
Yeah, you didn't find there was any dynamism in
I just thought it was so cliched,
and
he was Mel Gibson in Conspiracy Theory.
Yeah, but
he was the crazy.
They know what sort of film
the only
they're
difference
in.
was he wasn't Mel Gibson. That was the only difference.
But I'm okay with that. I mean, I really don't know what more you could have asked for these actors in these character roles. I mean, I thought they were fulfilling exactly what was needed at that time to move the story forward. I kind of forgive any sort of clunkiness about the exposition because it's this sort of film. I mean, I'm not trying to be an apologist here. I'm just saying that this film is all about spectacle. It's why you go and see a Godzilla film, and I just think everything else was just a perfect complement for it.
Well, in saying that, then you might be right, and then I do think then the action was lackluster. Then it was just set piece after set piece, intercepted with poor fake drama, and the set pieces were lackluster. I felt it was using Gareth Edwards' method in Monsters, which worked well for a low budget, trying to hide his special effects because he had not much money. Used the same method to hide this hugely budgeted special effects, which works in one way with the Spielbergian Jaws sort of method. But then, if what you're saying is right, and it is just about the spectacle and the event, then where was the spectacle and event for me? It wasn't enough.
Okay.
Whereas, on one hand, Man of Steel took it too far. Godzilla didn't go far enough. And like Man of Steel isn't about destruction, and all for me, especially the third act, was just nothing but destruction. Godzilla is only about destruction. Where was it?
It was definitely hidden and teased.
Yeah, and it was all
throughout.
shown on security cams and news footage and...
Yeah, and I found that to be really effective. Yeah. I did think that it was a suspenseful way of introducing it. It felt like they knew that they were leading to something and that they had to ramp it up and that they couldn't step up onto things and drop back down and step back up. It did feel like a slow build. I thought it worked well.
And on that note, I liked the POV for a lot of the action sequences, like keeping it ground level, and not just the actual human characters that we were getting to know as the film went on, but just anyone. Like on the Golden Gate Bridge sequence, I mean, you had it. The camera was always inside cars on that bridge, watching what was going on. I mean, just keeping it grounded like that was just a great.
But it was keeping it inside cars of characters that you had never had any connection with whatsoever.
Stop and think about those
characters. I know there's the
characters.
Human connection just straight up because we are human.
Yeah.
But in a film that paid so much attention to trying to build emotional connect with characters and then utilise humans on a level where you hadn't met these humans then, though, I felt a disconnect the whole way through.
Okay, I think particularly in those shots when it was coming from inside a vehicle and you're seeing these spikes rising through the water coming towards you, I didn't think for a second that it should be an emotional or a character connection. It was just that this is what you would be seeing if you were standing on that bridge and putting it on just an earthly point of view, and it looked. I found it just astounding. I was really blown away by the way.
I was also impressed that.
No, sorry.
I was going to say the. After Rise of the Planet of the Apes, you kind of thought that action sequences on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco were done. Like they just sort of closed the book on that, and somehow this film managed to step it up.
See, I think Rise of the Planet of the Apes totally superseded the set piece on the Golden Gate Bridge here. Mm-hmm. I think, I know I had my 3 key words, but I guess my one key word then would be dull. I think. Wow. Godzilla was dull.
All right.
Yeah, see, that's a point I almost don't even know how to argue against, because there was an excitement like physically in my body when I was sitting in the cinema that I so rarely get. I think I had when I was sitting in IMAX waiting for The Dark Knight to come on screen, and then they had the bank heist with the Joker.
I think
it's
I think getting to the spoiler section will help me sort of convey
Sure.
my
okay.
But just
my opinion a bit
on
more,
that note,
'cause-
before we get on the spoiler section, I have to agree because, like I said at the very start of this review, it's old school event filmmaking, and it made me feel like a kid again watching this film. It made me feel like watching Jurassic Park for the first time.
But there's something about Jurassic Park that is inherently human, which
Yeah.
I think Godzilla lacked.
Okay.
I just keep coming back to the same thing, that it was forced drama, it was forced characterization.
So just no matter how much they tried to put into the characters behind, the characters involved with it, it didn't work for you. Just couldn't get into the.
That's
the
right,
idea.
yeah. And with Jurassic Park, it did have that sort of surrogate father thing with Sam Neill taking on the kids, but it worked so well there because it wasn't a 5-minute thing or a 10-minute thing. It was a third of the film. He carried those kids with him and protected them.
That's true, actually. The more you think about Jurassic Park, it is a masterclass in how to make a
It is one of the
monster
greatest
movie.
films of all time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Would not argue with
It's
that.
my top film with 93.
Really? 93?
Yep.
Oh, wow, Tom. Yeah.
What else was in 93?
I've got a list. Oh, I can tell you if you want. No, I won't. But, all right, well, should we wrap that up now? Actually, before we do leave the film, I do want to mention the character design on the other monsters was riffing on Starship Troopers. Did you guys notice that?
Yes, and that was a
I
deliberate.
felt
Gareth
that.
Edwards said that.
Okay.
They
Oh,
researched
really?
Jurassic
That was
Park,
very cool.
Starship Troopers, and there are a few others I can't remember.
To see
but-
Starship Troopers' sort of scrappy design put on that scale was very, very exciting. I mean, that made me very happy. As
And
a
usually
big
with
nerd.
large creature design, I always feel a bit that doesn't work in reality. How could that possibly move with those knee joints with this?
But
right.
do you
it's
reckon?
kind of like a Barbie doll in real life. It's
That's
going to
right,
fall
yeah.
over.
But with, was it Muto?
Yeah.
I felt
Sure.
that they moved quite realistically, and I never once, it was never jarring for me. So the character design and the monsters were the saving grace for me, but not enough.
Okay.
The
yeah.
action that they were involved with wasn't enough for me.
The way that they introduced them and it's funny because we started this off saying that we were going to reveal the monsters, and we basically just haven't at all.
There's been too much other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there's been
apparently.
plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
But I did really like the way that they saved Godzilla for. He was like the encore of the film. Not the encore. He's there throughout it, but he is.
He was
they
the
know-
Jaws of-
That's
Yeah.
right. He's the Jaws,
Yep.
and they have some other fish in the sea.
Yeah.
So they've got with this. Is it Motu or Mutu?
Muto, I think.
Muto, yeah.
Muto. Yeah. So with
Monsters of Unknown, I don't know.
yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. So,
David Strathairn will tell us.
Terrestrial origin.
Yeah. There you go.
That's right, yeah. So the Mutos,
did listen.
I really like the way that they use them to slowly reveal. You got the payoff of the monster. You wanted to see something huge, and you got to see that before they actually had to reveal Godzilla.
Yeah.
Because there is always this thing, and I was actually wondering it going in, how are they going to show us Godzilla in the first 5 minutes? Because that's how you have to start off a monster movie with the monster, because you can't be sitting around for 45 minutes wondering when it's going to, or waiting
But we
for it
did
to
with
happen.
Jaws, though. We did with Jurassic Park.
That's true, but those days are long gone now. And when
Do
now,
you think the internet's to blame for that?
I don't know. I
I
think
think
maybe
the
it's
hype
just.
behind things, the constant tweeting and
The need for money
and-
shots in
yeah,
trailers.
Yeah.
I
I mean, we
think-
only just spoke before about the Batman reveal.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm more than happy to look at that and salivate over it. But what would have been better is, 20 minutes into the film,
Yeah.
or 30 minutes into the film, he, redons the bat suit after 10 years of retirement, and you see it, and it's huge and it's epic.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are gone, and that's a sad state of affairs. And I think that is one of the problems with these big films these days.
You might
There's
be
no
right with the
surprise
internet.
and-
You've got with Jaws, there was people were going in and there was genuine dread and suspense and not knowing what they're going to get. With these movies, you know what you're going to get, and people are paying to see something, so they expect to see it quickly. But then old movie law says that you have to wait and you have to build up suspense. But we know now going into films like this that you have to see something huge at the beginning.
However,
So
you can still
liked-
choose to avoid, though. I mean, the
no,
fact
but
is...
what I'm saying is that the way that this Godzilla did it was absolutely perfect with the title sequence and then building it up with the
Yeah,
Mutos.
I
was
think
that
so.
They give you these teasers and then they build it up.
Because apparently there were some Godzilla trailers that showed you a lot. And
I avoided all trailers after the first.
I watched the
first
teaser.
major one. I saw the teaser
one
and
with the
then first trailer.
skydive. And
So
then-
did I as well, yeah.
And that was all I saw. So the Godzilla himself, I'd never seen until I saw it in the cinema. So I was happy with that.
Well, I had the closest I saw it coming was the skydive.
Yep.
Bit of
Yeah,
a,
that
bit
halo
of a
jump.
close up down there. Yeah, the
Yeah,
halo jump.
yeah.
Yeah. Which
Did that
was
work?
a great.
I mean, surely that would have
that
worked.
was an amazing
but-
sequence.
Yeah.
and some of the sequences throughout the film were amazing, but I'm past the day of thinking wow, it had two great sequences as it was a great film.
Okay.
I don't know. I need a lot to be, especially for a massive budgeted film. I need a lot to be impressed. After Avengers, I guess. Avengers ruined event films for me because things they've got to be matched to that.
Yeah.
Sure. Speaking of Avengers, Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor-Johnson playing husband and wife in this film, about to play brother and sister in the Avengers sequel.
Well, I was quite happy about Quicksilver appearing in the new Avengers until last night. I started questioning the casting choice.
Yeah. I don't know if he can pull it off, but we'll see. All right, we'll leave Godzilla for the moment. If you guys have seen Godzilla, stick around after the credits and we'll have a bit of a spoiler chat. But until then, also out this week is The Zero Theorem, which of course is the brand spanking new Terry Gilliam film. Now, he didn't write this film, but he did direct it.
It does look very
Gilliam-esque.
very Gilliam
as Gilliam as you can get. We were talking about Anderson-y, Jarmuschian. It's Gilliam-y.
Gilliam-esque, yeah.
Gilliam-y? Is that what we're
Gilliam-y,
going with?
yeah, totally.
Yeah, because
Definitely
it
looks
sounds,
it.
it
To me,
sounds
when I
proper.
first saw the trailer, all I could think of was 12 Monkeys in Brazil.
Yeah.
It was a perfect mesh of the two.
Absolutely. I think that's what the
cannot wait to
screenwriter
see
did.
it.
Yeah, we'll see. It might end up being a poor pastiche of.
Do we know
of
much
other
about the
Gilliam
screenwriter,
stuff.
Tom?
Nothing at all.
I think we'll be talking about it next week.
All right, hopefully. All right, Blu-ray releases this week. We've got 47 Ronin, which the critics really, really didn't like. I don't think the audiences liked it either because it didn't do very well at the cinema. We've got Her from the wonderful Spike Jonze, which was a huge favourite of mine. In fact, it's in my top 3 for 2014 so far. It's jostling for the number 1 position at the moment between Wolf of Wall Street and The Raid 2. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. We didn't see this film, so have no idea. Can't say about that. The other big Blu-ray release this week is Princess Mononoke, which I didn't even realise hadn't been released on Blu-ray in Australia.
I would have assumed it already had been.
But there you go. Maybe it's a different version, but that's a Studio Ghibli film, of course, and a really solid Ghibli film. If you haven't ventured into the anime world yet, I mean, that's a great place to start with those Miyazaki films. They're incredible. That is Miyazaki, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is Miyazaki. It's one of the better ones too. I
Okay,
think.
awesome. Criterion. Oh, yes, I do have this. This just got released today, so I haven't had a chance to look over this, but bear with me, guys. We've got a new Cassavetes film. Not new, obviously, but new to the collection. Love Streams. I haven't seen that. An early Pedro Almodovar film, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. And Eta Mama Tambien from Cuarón, one of his earlier films.
Which is it's a quintessential road film if you guys haven't seen it.
It's been very close to the top of my to-see list for years, and I just haven't got around
Which
to
to me was really odd when Warner Brothers picked him for the third Harry Potter off the back of
that was
Imama.
kind of crazy, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a really sweet film. I'm quite a fan.
It's
so
almost like
it'd
a
be nice
Monsters to Godzilla transition.
pretty much.
Yeah, very much so. No.
We've also got from 1979 Bob Fosse's All That Jazz is joining the collection. Now, I haven't actually seen this, but I'm quite a fan of Cabaret, which Bob Fosse also wrote and directed, so I'm keen to check this out. And then there's Vengeance Is Mine from someone I'm not going to try and pronounce right now, but this has been in the collection for a long time, and it's finally getting a Blu-ray upgrade. So there's that. All right, next week, X-Men: Days of Future Past is the plan. So as long as I can convince Dave and twist his arm to come
I'll
and see
it. What's going to happen is that I'm going to see it, I'm not going to like it, then I'm going to say bad things about it, and then people are going to get angry at me like Captain America. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and watch all the X-Men movies this week, and then I'm going to watch this one, the new one, and then if I don't like it, I'm just going to let you talk about it, and that's fine. Because honestly, it doesn't get my goat. I just don't care.
Perhaps start by watching the animated series from episode 1 through end.
God, it's only 1 week. I don't have years in front of me.
You guys can, of course, email us at podcast@silverscreensnobs.com and find all past episodes, Facebook, Twitter links, etc. at silverscreensnobs.com. Thank you for sticking around for this extended episode and discussion on Godzilla. And if you want to hear a little bit more about Godzilla, stick around after the music.
Yeah, stick around after the end credits. You're on Twitter at Snobs Podcast. I'm on Twitter at SS Snobs. So, we'll fade out that music.
And thank you again, Jesse Boyle, for joining us for this episode.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it. I'd like to do it again if it's a possibility. So
Very, very, very likely. All right, so Jesse, this is the point in the episode where you wanted to really outline.
Wait, hang on. We have to do, if you're listening and you've let it run on, spoilers, Godzilla, spoilers.
You're very considerate, Dave. I like that.
I
like that.
fucking
You're
hate
looking
it
after
when
listeners.
You know, that's really...
It's
as I
just
said to you guys
bullshit.
earlier, off the record, I just finished watching Lost, and I spent the last 7 years changing the channel and fucking closing websites and running away when people speak about it, and it was well worth the effort to finally get to the end of it. Whether people think it was good or not, it was worth getting to there and not knowing the end anyway. So
yeah, and there's a lot of still people around going, "Oh, spoilers doesn't matter, so what? Whatever."
Yeah.
It's 10 years old. Spoilers. No human can consume all that mankind has to offer in the forum of art and storytelling. So if you haven't seen it, we're about to talk about the end.
It's fucking annoying to have shit spoiled.
It really
Yes,
is.
it is.
It really is.
Darth
So good
Vader was
point.
Luke Skywalker's father.
Jesse, what was some of your issues with more intricate plot details?
So the train sequence, not the the bridge sequence is what I'm referring. Not the Golden Gate Bridge, but the bridge, the train bridge.
So when they're Aaron Taylor Johnson and his mates sneaking ahead to do some reconnaissance.
Yeah, and this is after Kick-Ass is already. He's conveniently the only EOD left, and he's conveniently the only one.
That was odd. They only had one of those guys left.
That's right.
Because the other guys died, guys. Come on, they all died in that
all
horrible
of
accident.
all of them.
All of them.
They couldn't call up
all around the world.
Yeah, they couldn't call
all
up Jeremy
died.
Renner and get
Yeah,
him.
no.
in, like,
Those guys were obviously dead because of the thing that
Godzilla.
happened earlier. Yeah.
Anyway, past
fine.
that though, so he's convenient.
No, you know what it was? EMPs, that's what it was. You couldn't fly more guys in from elsewhere because the EMP knocked out the thing. That's what
Were they not in the middle
Right.
of nowhere out there? Wasn't there some hick that blows shit up on the weekend for fun out there that could have helped
I was
them out?
kind of confused as to why they were in the middle of nowhere all of a sudden.
Yeah, so
I didn't
this
follow
comes-
They were
that
trying to get to
shift.
San Fran.
Yeah, this comes to my major...
okay.
my
Because that's where
major-
the monsters were, or
Yes,
where they were going.
Yes,
My
okay.
major problem with this scene and this sequence... So the plot point is that Muto consumes nuclear energy,
Yep.
and this is how they grow. And I guess one of the Mutos is pregnant, and they need more nuclear energy to harvest the babies or whatever they want to go on about.
Well, if they succeed in spawning, they're going to cover the earth with these things, and
granted,
mankind will finish.
Granted, and that was a threat.
Stakes are pretty high.
That was a threat that needed to be
Addressed.
And the way they chose to address it was by luring it with a nuke out to sea, and then using the force of the explosion to kill them. Okay, so yeah, that kind of works. Were they not then? Why were they surprised when Muto attacked them in the middle of nowhere if they were using it to lure them?
No,
Surely they were
no.
lured in the middle of nowhere still.
I don't think that was. I don't think that was actually the case. I think they were taking the nuke to where the monsters were with the intention of detonating the nuke when they got it to the monster.
They wanted to take the nuke out to sea, so
That was later. That was later
No, but
after
that
shit
was
went
getting
crazy.
the nuke. That was getting the nuke to San Fran for that purpose, though.
You know,
Get it
no,
to
I think-
San Francisco Bay and then take it out to sea.
Okay, I could be wrong, but honestly, I think at that point in the movie, the plan was that San Fran was a write-off. They were going to take the nuke there and destroy the creature.
I think there was a piece of expositional dialogue
I might have missed this.
that said about taking it out, so
That was later, though.
to
That was-
minimise the fallout.
Yeah, that was after the monster took the nuke and ate it and went
I
away.
don't think so, because I remember watching that scene thinking. Well, you knew your plan was to lure it out to sea, and you've lured it into the
I
middle
think that
of
was
nowhere.
later. What do you think, David? Do you remember?
Yeah, I am trying. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that was later. I think that was the second time around.
I think after they lost the nuke because the Muto came along and ate it and went away, they were just like, damn.
All right, well, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before.
It didn't eat it, wasn't it? Passing it. They
was
were
like-
passing
It
it.
picked it up with its mouth and went away.
Yeah, and then it passed it to another one, and then they
Yeah,
took
it put
it to
it put it next
No,
to its
that was
babies.
that was later when it was in the city. They gave it.
Yeah, I think when it was in the
one
city,
gave it to the other to feed the babies.
because the thing
Right,
was,
right,
okay,
okay.
so this is probably getting way too detailed, but the fact was they had jerry-rigged it to be set manually, right? So this was their ace in the hole, was this nuke on the train. They were taking it to San Fran to detonate it, and then the monster threw a span in the works by taking it and just...
I think the jerry rigging though was to get it out to sea. And I know what you're saying. Later on, it felt like that was the plan because
Okay.
Kick-Ass was on the boat with it. But I think the plan all along was for it to go out to sea. David Strathairn stated to get it out.
Yeah, but
from
I'm
San
still
Francisco
saying
Bay
this
to-
is later. Like that plan came in later. That was a shit, what are we going to do now plan. That was like, okay, now we have to somehow get
So
it
if
away.
you are right, and
Yeah.
San
I
Francisco
could
was
be
a
wrong.
write-off, then Kick-Ass showed no real emotion about getting back to his family to get them
Well, that
out
was
of
my
San
issue with his
Francisco.
performance. Like, that's why
But
I
that's
thought...
writing, though, as well. He
Yeah.
had no dialogue to state otherwise.
Hey, maybe I am wrong. Honestly, that's how I took it. I thought initially they were just like, well, we're going to have to nuke the monster and whatever else happens. Because at the end of the day, with these sort of things, when the stakes this high, nuking a city is a small price to pay for saving the entire population
Which
of
I
the
totally
world.
agree with, and I found myself in a point in the film asking why they're not just going to risk a city to save the rest of the world.
Well, that's the thing. They couldn't fly planes in to drop a nuke because the EMP would knock out the plane.
So they were taking the nuke on the train.
Exactly,
and
they
then
were
put it
taking
on a
it-
boat and take it out. Is how I read the.
Yeah, see, I think the boat thing came much later. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think the boat thing was like, how are we going to deal with this? Now we get... I don't know.
Oh, okay. So on a separate issue then, because I'm not entirely sure the plot mechanics about what you guys are talking about, but the idea that they can just dispose of the monsters by blowing up a nuclear bomb when they've spent most of the film trying to establish that nuclear radiation is something that they feed off.
Yeah, I
but
felt
that-
really, and they did
Because
state that the
there's-
Force would kill them, but
Yeah,
that's
so
a
this
that's
is-
a
Yeah.
massive risk.
For me, there's something
They feed
about
off the radiation. They don't feed off like an explosion
the
or rip
explosion.
them apart.
Yeah, okay.
but where's the evidence that the force of the explosion would?
That's right. It was all, and that was why I really didn't like that the Navy just seemed to come up empty-handed at every turn. They just seemed to have no answer. And whenever Ken Watanabe's character would say, "It's nature, they're going to fight. Godzilla's going to be on our side," and then David Strathairn would say, "Well, we can't take that risk. We're going to have to do something." And then they didn't really do anything at all. They gave them a bomb that they're going to then.
No. Here's the thing, because they took Ken Watanabe's character at his word. Like, they never were going after Godzilla. They always thought Godzilla would be the alpha predator
Which
to
is
take
a
care of the problem.
ridiculous-
They were hoping, but they didn't know that. And David Strathairn even said, "We can't take that risk."
Okay.
I remember him saying that because that was.
I think I must have twisted the plot.
That
into
might have been.
how
that was really
that might have been when he had
frustrating
the watch.
Now that's it was around about that time, but that would have been fine if then they gave the Navy a point, some actual plan of attack, and they didn't really have anything except to give them bombs, which they then were going to play with and they wanted. It's
Yeah.
kind of like you've got the Cookie Monster. You get rid of the Cookie Monster by feeding him cookies.
giant cookie.
cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
Giant
problem
cookie.
with
It
that
was kind
train
of-
scene. They were trying to lure them away, and they led them into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where they had no defense against it. They were on a train bridge. It was a Stand By Me moment where they were running on a train bridge to
Yeah.
get away from this thing. There's no escape. They put themselves in a hole, which is a scripting device to create danger, which just comes back to my whole theory of everything's forced in the film.
Yeah,
But everything's forced in every film. Like, I don't see.
But they
this
don't
being
usually
a-
feel forced, though.
I don't see it being a cinema crime more than most films are, though, when it comes to these sort of plot
You don't
mechanics
think
to
that
move
it's a
stuff
cinema
along.
crime that Kick-Ass and Godzilla
Like, shared a moment.
shared a moment?
Okay, so this is what towards the end when
This is the Chinatown
it looks
sequence.
like he's down, and he gives a kind of a look to Aaron Taylor Johnson.
he
and
almost should have winked at him, you know?
Yeah.
then it was.
I thought that was silly,
Yeah.
but I was still so in love with the Godzilla character, I didn't care. Like,
Yeah, so I'm totally with you.
I
It
guess
doesn't-
I'm
these
writing off a
things
lot of
I'm
stuff.
I'm really happy to nitpick, and
Yep.
I'm happy to. I kind of agree with you, Jesse. I think that is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
but I'm more with you, Tom, because I just thought I was just so on board with everything that was happening. I was just like, this is just so fantastic. That I don't
especially
care.
that little moment they share, which is ridiculous. I do understand what you're saying, but it also sort of speaks to a point where the Godzilla character was just like going, huh, wow, other monsters, huh? Okay, I'll get back to it now. And he sort of picks himself up and,
Yeah, what
and
is he,
goes and
Rocky?
fights some more.
What?
But like he is there.
At the end of the film, he got to do a hero
He did,
strut.
he
out of the, he
strutted
strutted out of the
out.
city.
That was
And
ridiculous.
I loved it.
I was wondering how
loved
many
that
people
strut.
he
It was
killed as he exited the
stupid,
city.
but it was so good. Yeah, I know. That was the other thing. He's strutting out like, okay, I'm done. I'll just, hang on, sorry. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 more killed. All right, I'm gone now.
I was when he was walking out, I was thinking to myself, I hope those Man of Steel critics are going to get on the internet and complain about how many people Godzilla killed as he exited this arena.
Yeah, that's right. Our newest hero is Godzilla. He just killed 10 times
And I
more
love how
than-
everyone's clapping as he's
Oh, that
knocking down
news,
buildings.
the
as he leaves.
newsreel, it was...
Our new hero.
That was
That's
pathetic.
It is kind of.
But it was also cheesy crazy and glorious and awesome. Like I
That's
really,
right. I
was
really
really
enjoyed
happy
it.
with
Kind of
that.
like how I like putting on a Prince best of every now and then. It was
There you
just
go.
like, it was a really guilty. Like, I know this is so.
Didn't
it's
you
wrong,
pay money
but
to see Ugly Kid Joe a couple of weeks ago, Jesse? See this?
Ooh.
Everyone's got
Prince
levels.
last year. Yeah,
You saw Prince last year?
yeah, I saw Prince last year. Yeah, it was magic, man. Yeah,
Oh, that would have been awesome.
yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back on topic.
So I think this is an argument that no one's going to win because everyone's kind of right in some way or another here.
I guess it comes down to what you want. What you want
Exactly,
out of a
what you
monster
want to
movie.
take away from this movie.
Well, I guess that, as I said before, I was just one step away from Jeff Goldblum stepping up and giving a.
See, I never
some
thought
period.
it was hitting those fucking.
Towards the end, there it was
depths.
just one step away from a boxing coach coming out. You're a bum, Godzilla. What?
Did you guys think that he was actually dead when they were showing the rubble and he was
of
the
course
body was
not.
there?
Godzilla, of
I'm-
course not. This is a.
I thought he
the
was.
start of a
I-
new franchise. I think they're going to kill their money,
Well,
their
first of all,
gravy
Toho
train.
won't license Godzilla to Americans and let Americans kill Godzilla. So
No,
we know this one's
no.
not gonna die.
I will hold you to that because it's exactly what they did in the last Godzilla film.
So, sorry, did they?
Yeah, they killed him.
Yeah,
in
but
that
they
film.
Well,
let-
as
they
I
let
said,
all
I had to turn
The
that.
They
film
left
was
the eggs.
the eggs. It was
Yeah, sure. But the fact is,
a squilling
that
eggs.
Godzilla that was the central focus of the film could still have died, and I thought they were going to kill him off. And I was sad. I was like, "Oh, come on! He's the hero. He saved you guys. He's got to survive." And then, luckily, a minute later, he did get up and walk
So
away.
I thought that hero, and I know now that the history of Godzilla says that he was protecting, by choice or not, protecting mankind. But in this particular film, I found it laughable and a bit embarrassing even that they went that route.
I think there's a reason, though, I was expecting him to come back is because we're so used to this idea in action movies that you have to have the encore. You have the huge
Yeah.
battle, and it's really I didn't find it a problem with this movie, but I think the reason I was expecting him to was because you get into these 2 hour 20. This movie was only 2 hours, but you get to this point where you have a 20-minute final battle and it ends, and for some reason it feels like the audience isn't satisfied yet. So there has to be a sleeper moment, and they have to come back for
but
5
it
minutes.
did feel quite final to me. I thought they did a good job of signifying that was over.
That's true. They did a good job at actually, no, you're right, because I was second guessing myself for a while, but I was just kept thinking, they can't leave. How are they going to end it? They've got
Do you think
Godzilla
that-
in the middle of the city, just lying down. It's
Yeah,
not
like
going
King
to
Kong.
happen.
Or, yeah.
Do you think that unsatisfactory feeling might have had something to do with 30 minutes of non-dialogue at the end there?
Oh, that was my favourite part about it. I
Really?
actually really enjoyed.
I felt absolutely nothing for the whole film.
I thought they were conveying it
That's
really
when
well.
Godzilla, the
That's-
character, took center stage and became the main character of the film. Like, that's what I was hanging out for.
But for me, you're right, he took centre stage, but for me, there was nothing to build up to that. It was like a Rocky film, and you spend the first hour and a half following Apollo Creed, and then Rocky steps up, and there's a big battle at the end. So there's nothing to feel for. There was no one, because there was no human interaction, so there was no human characters to feel for. So therefore, for me, there was nothing to give you feeling for Godzilla to look before that.
It may have been clumsy exposition, in your opinion, but when early in the film where they suggested Godzilla being the alpha predator, the idea of him rising up to keep the status quo, to knock out these guys so the rest of the life on Earth could prevail, I sort of bought that hook, line and sinker. I thought that's actually fine for me. I'm okay with that premise, and the rest of the film stuck to that premise rigidly, and everything else just fell into place
I
for
think
me.
I'm okay with the premise, just have problems with the delivery,
Okay.
the execution of it. And if we can come back to this convenience sort of thing, and Kick-Ass finds his kid in the camp, and then they go to the sports field, whatever, where all the...
That reminded me of the what was that tsunami film?
Yeah,
Impossible.
Impossible.
Fuck that film.
Speaking of impossible, he
Completely-
fucking runs
completely
into...
possible, apparently.
He runs into Ashley Joel Osment's sister, or whatever her name is, the...
Elizabeth
Olsen. Yeah.
the Olsen twin sisters.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
who
yeah.
Ashley Joel Osment is.
No,
I think he was sisters of the guy in The Sixth Sense, but...
I'm glad you bring that up, because that was complete bullshit that you did see from the very first moment in the film when they do get separated. You get the husband and wife separated. It's a disaster film. You know that one of the last shots is them going to be walking amongst
Yeah.
all the wreckage and the survivors,
I didn't
and they're
care,
going to bump
though.
into each other.
It was
didn't bother
fucking
me at all.
ridiculous, so I
It-
cared a lot.
It
I
doesn't.
put no stake in that at all.
I was bulletproof by the end. Nothing's
Yeah.
going to bother me. But that was bullshit. It doesn't ruin the movie. It makes no difference. It's just that you know what? I would have rather that Aaron Taylor Johnson's character just died. Who cares? Because they've made Godzilla the hero.
I didn't care.
So we could have had the hero live on because the hero is Godzilla. The hero is not Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's just a guy with a wife. And yeah, I guess maybe can you watch a blockbuster movie where a wife and a child are left, they're widowers now because the husband's died trying to chase a monster around the world?
No, you got to have the family reunion.
You
at the
have to.
end.
I guess you have to
That's
have that
how it
moment. But
works.
it was so dumb. Why can a movie at least go through a digital register or something and go, your husband registered over here.
Yeah, you
He's
don't
at
have to
that
show
sensor,
it.
and can he?
And I know I
yeah.
said before, show don't tell, but some things
Yeah.
don't show. It's so obvious and.
That's when they found each other in a sports center.
None
it
of
was
this
just-
precautionary stuff
ridiculous.
took away from the main issue for me. And
But
the main
you've got
issue
to
for me
admit,
was...
no, okay, it might not take away, but
I
you've got to admit that
admit-
that's crap.
I'm willing to give you all that. I mean, there's nothing original or interesting about those
film.
human stories.
Oh, sorry.
However, everything else overrode that for me, so I didn't care. I was just like, yep, tick, 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 that's fine. Family gets back together. Like, I was fine with that.
For me, even that surrogate father thing that I mentioned
So, yeah,
earlier
what-
on the
what were you
on the
talking about
monorail.
So who was the surrogate father? Like the army
Kick-Ass.
boss?
Kick-Ass.
Yeah, or
When
Navy,
he was
I
on the
should say.
monorail in Hawaii.
Oh, when he's looking after
and he
the
looks
kid.
after the little Japanese child.
Yeah.
And instantly I just thought, really? I'm glad that it didn't last long either.
That was
'cause
the
it
only time that he was relatable and endearing, though.
But he wasn't, though, because it was just
I thought he was
ridiculous.
fine.
Like, what was the point of that? That just added 5 minutes of screen time for nothing. It didn't add anything.
Yeah, it was
and then not
useless.
only that, it had that same coincidence ending where then they go to the base and the kid finds his family instantly.
Yeah, I actually
Very
really
much
liked
like
that
me,
because he
Bob.
didn't get any credit for it. I think the reason they would have put it in there is to try and make him seem more relatable.
Yeah,
seem like
make
more
him
of a
seem
good
like
guy.
a human being, yeah.
Probably would have worked if they had a better actor then, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the thing was that whole sequence would have been unnecessary if he was a better actor and he could simply do the other parts well, like actually care about his family, like maybe try a little harder to get on that freaking train to get back to San Fran to see his family instead of just go, my wife and kid are there, so I really need to.
Yeah, and he
get
says to the
San
kid,
Fran."
I better not miss my plane, kid. Give the kid
I
to
will
fucking
smack you in
somebody
the head,
else.
kid,
No, give him
yeah.
to someone
Yeah.
else and
I
say,
was
I'm going to get
thinking
back to
that,
my
yeah.
family.
Can you find another reasonable human on that carriage?
Yeah.
Because you have a duty.
Yeah,
and
that's
you need to be
right.
somewhere. I think the other people are just shit scared, so they'll take a
And
kid.
not only did he have a duty, we already had that exposition of Bryan Cranston saying, "You get back and protect your family, no matter what." Like we didn't know that already. You had to drill it down us, and then you do the opposite. Like, really? What sort of a man are you then?
Before we leave the
Sorry.
whole chat completely, no, I'm with you. Like, it's just funny about these things because these things just did not register with me. I just didn't care about all these normal sort of movie things that were being fulfilled. But since we're doing the spoiler section, we should probably just mention it. What did you guys think about Bryan Cranston dying like 5 minutes into the film?
Oh, it was not 5 minutes. He was in it for at least 35 or 40 minutes.
He was in it for 20 minutes, I think.
Nah, come on. He
Yeah, I'm gonna
My
say
only
close to
problem
20.
was
He
he was the marketing.
No,
Well, that's my point. Okay.
He was the marketer, but he kicked the second gear into act. The second act. We've been recording for Jesus Christ over 3 hours. He kicked the second act into gear.
Yeah.
I think it was around till about 45 minutes.
I was still shocked when he died. Like when he died, I didn't realize that he had died until later on in another scene. A character said, "I'm sorry for your loss, sir."
It was very underwhelming, wasn't it?
And
It was
then I
a weird passing
Wait, did
away,
he
yeah,
actually die? I was very confused.
It was odd because they
Yeah.
zipped him up in a body bag really quickly.
I didn't even see that.
It was
I must have been paying
you could have
attention.
missed it. I
It
saw
didn't
it.
even
and
look
thought,
like- it didn't
hang
look
on.
like him.
It
Yeah.
looked, it sort of looked like him. I wasn't sure. Maybe it was someone else.
Yeah.
The other thing that's notable about the beginning, though, is that the Juliette Binoche character. I really like this actually. That they were just
She got
willing,
5 minutes tops.
Yeah, but they were willing to go a really sour, depressing route in the first 5 minutes and off the wife.
Well,
that was a harsh. I mean, no matter what, you have a connection to the characters. You just think about your own life and your own relationships, and as soon as something like that happens, it's there's emotional heartstrings.
Yeah, and this
being
is back to
pulled. I
my
thought that it was a really
my
bleak-
original sort of anchoring with the characters in the film, and the reason that I felt the characters worked as a whole is because you didn't get much time to get to know those two characters as husband and wife. But when she died, I felt it. I felt that it was a
Absolutely.
serious event, and it would have had a knock-on effect with that
was
character.
a bold move too. You don't get that very
It
often.
was a bold move.
Yeah.
I will probably be the unpopular bear here.
For a change.
Bryan Cranston really chewed the scenery in that death scene to me.
Well, his wife was dying.
Yeah,
How else can you play that?
not like Darth Vader saying no, that was really lame.
Hey, there was a scary poisonous cloud approaching.
It wasn't acted well though.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was actually
it
quite
harkened
well.
back to me.
I'm gonna have to join Jesse on this one. That almost took me out of it
Yeah.
because he was so melodramatic.
That took me back to he was
Yeah.
hell, and his wife Lois dropped the eggs, and he said no. That was a Malcolm in the Middle moment for me. It was-
Yeah. I don't think it was his fault, though.
embarrassing.
I think it was the way it was shot. The way that he was demanded to project all that grief in one moment.
yeah, I'm not necessarily saying it was his fault.
Yeah.
It was
But I agree that was a
was a
poorly
clunky
played
film for me,
moment.
though. It was-
And it almost lost me right then and there. I just thought, okay, that's kind of hard to do, so I'm going to just ignore that and we'll just move on. I still felt the pain and I still
Yeah.
felt the grief afterwards,
Okay.
but that particular moment, I agree, was poorly handled.
Yeah, it did lose it for me there. And I mean, yeah, as I said earlier, maybe all these things I'm bringing up is because I was already lost. I'd already given up
Yeah.
on it, so I was just pulling out the negative. In saying that, though, I still say that it was magnificently shot, wonderfully directed, and the effects were beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
And the character design of the monsters was
Top
really,
notch.
really spectacular.
So if they chopped out all the character pieces, would you watch it as a half an hour visual effects show reel and be excited?
Yes.
The best sizzle reel ever made.
Yeah, that would be one hell of a sizzle reel.
Yeah, it really would be.
Yeah.
Speaking of the visuals, this was retrofitted in 3D. I almost completely forgot about this.
Did you watch it in 3D?
No, but I've heard terrible things
Okay.
from people, so apparently avoid 3D
Tom,
at all
did you see it in
costs.
3D?
No, we skipped the preview screenings because they were only in 3D.
Okay, yeah,
so
no,
we held
I
out to
saw it
the
in 2D also.
Yeah, the only way to go, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not very fond of 3D in general, so
No.
Gravity, Avatar. There's it's
Oh,
got
every now and then
time
there's
and a place.
Yeah, that's right. There's an exception every now and then. I think retrofitted Godzilla is probably not the
No,
time. Nor
Guardians
the
of
place.
Gahul was a good one. Yeah.
Oh, I watched that. I tried to watch that at home on 3D, and that was another one I
Guardians,
stopped.
the Owls of Goodhul. I think is
whatever
what
it was
it's
called.
Legends of the Guardians, Owls of Gahul.
What Dave said.
And that's another reason why Zack Snyder is a terrible director.
Oh, that was a great
Batman
film,
Will be
I
no
thought.
really?
Yeah, I loved that.
You saying this because you're a new father, or?
Maybe I don't know. I felt a real affinity for that film.
I've never seen it, and I don't care.
Character development was.
I'm going to wrap this up now. Thanks for sticking around so long, guys, and we will see you all next week.
I'm finished.